Hi. We don't play this game as intended around here. Today, I've cursed myself with 6 incurable debuffs. No matter what I do, I'll always be blind and bleeding, so I'll never be able to see clearly or naturally regen health. I'll always be weak, meaning that the most I can bench is like 15 pounds. My controls are going to be reversed, my defense at all times will be half of what it's supposed to be, and I'm also slow. Both mentally and physically. And when you put all of those together, you get this abomination of a mod, which you can download on the Steam Workshop, just in case you're bored or need a challenge. And remember, it's only masochism if you like the pain. I like a good challenge. I don't like pain, which is why I'll be playing on expert mode. I may be dumb, but at least I'm not batshit crazy. Also, I'm gonna try to do this challenge without negating the debuffs. So, I won't be using the Ankh Shield or any of its parts, and I won't be lighting any campfires or putting down any heart lanterns. This also means no ban to regen either. You can do it differently in your playthrough though, if for some reason you actually do download this. Those restrictions are more of an honor system thing for me. Oh, and one last thing. The nurse doesn't cure these debuffs, in case you were wondering. The start of every Terraria adventure is always the same. You wake up in the forest next to this doofus and decide that it's time to make a living for yourself. This time was no different, but I immediately noticed 3 pretty big hits to my traditional lifestyle. The first thing I realized was just how sluggish I really was. Not only was the slow debuff having my movement speed, but being weak also made me 10% slower. Now, the way movement speed penalties work in this game is that they don't decrease your max run speed. Instead, they hit your acceleration, so it takes way longer to reach at max speed. This gets super annoying when you're out and about, so anything that helped my slow ass be more agile would be really good. The second thing is that my eyes are actually closed, which is really cool. I have no idea how we can actually see, but at least I can now title this video, I beat Terraria with my eyes closed. Nah, I'm playing. We don't do clickbait on this channel. That being said, you definitely need to like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, put this video on your watch later playlist, click on every single ad, and sacrifice your first newborn in my name. I'd appreciate that. The third thing is that confusion makes your life very miserable. Now, I know I could rebind my controls in the game settings, but that kind of feels like cheating. So instead, I gotta deal with rope. Okay, to go up rope normally, you hold W to go up and S to go down. That's pretty simple, so logically, you'd expect the inverted controls to be the exact opposite. Hold it! You're thinking a bit too logically there, bud. How about instead of holding S to go up, you instead hold A. Like A for Ascension, or A for the aspirin you'll need while playing through this mod. Sorry, I have to excuse myself. I'm getting a headache right now. So, in terms of caving, our priorities are going to be way different from the norm. Normally, you go and mine out a bunch of ore that you then turn into gear, but regular armor here is going to be as useful to us as a Discord mod is to society. So, our main goal is to look for some good accessories, stuff like Hermes boots or a cloud in a bottle. But where would I first start looking for all of this crap? I guess the cave right next to our house is a good start, if it didn't lead directly into a corruption chasm. Now, if you were an old blind man, and you needed to descend a large cliff while being assaulted by some demon spawn, how would you get down there? Would you, A, slowly lower a rope down and pray that the Lord up above shows you a morsel of mercy, or B, well, that's probably the coolest thing I've ever done in this game. Time for everything to go downhill. Let me just grab this musket first. Alright, now you can kill me. Come on, let's get this over with. Progress through that section of the underground was slowing down, so I decided to walk the other way. And besides, walking gave me some time to think about what class I wanted to play. Normally, I play ranged, so for this challenge, I decided to take that off the table. And melee was going to be painful with both broken armor and weak debuffs, so I decided to play a mix of magic and summoner, with an emphasis on summoner. It's a class that I don't really touch that much, but since I'll have no defense throughout this entire run anyway, now's a great time to pick it up. And I know I just picked up a musket, but give it a minute, alright? It's hard to find good mage stuff in the early game. And after all of that thinking, I found myself right next to an exposed sandstone temple. Ah yes, my 2 favorite pastimes, ransacking ancient pyramids and cosplaying as Aladdin. Not only would the flying carpet help us go places a Toyota couldn't take us, but more importantly, the temple stairs spit me straight out into the underground desert. which for the millionth time in a Terraria playthrough, I severely underestimate. But like the stubborn little Terrarian that I am, I go right back to where I die. And then I die again. Also, it's kinda hard to find anything of note here, cause as it turns out, when you're blind, it's very hard to see. Who would have thunk that, right? Hey look, a tree. Damn. Hey look, a house. Oh my god, that's almost fucking useless. In the tree shaft, we did get a pair of Hermes boots, right? So, mission accomplished, I guess. And an enemy also dropped a shirt, which gave us a cool 0.5 defense. Oh yeah, we're gaming right now. Alright, I'm sick of just about everything I've found so far, so let's try to walk past the corruption now. I mean, it'd be painful, but at least I had my trusty Springfield with me. Loyalists, Confederates, and Shinigami's little minions, they all fall the same. Past the corruption was the ice, and past the ice was an actually competent cave. Finally, we can experience what Terraria is really about. Hell yeah, now we're really cooking. Heart containers, more chests, death, but also shrooms. And I don't even mean that as in, I'm gonna go get right with the spirit of the mushroom. They are genuinely useful for making better health pots. I also got a bone pick, which I'll admit is pretty lucky. And I also found an endless supply of snowflinks, which we could massacre and then skin for its fur. These pelts would allow us to craft our first summoning staff, the Flink Staff. It's just a Flinks with a man bun, I don't know what I was expecting. But we've got no time to waste, cause the local goblins have marked us for death and are now sending their surprisingly accurate bowmen and spellcasters to our front door. A whole army versus a man, his pet, and his musket, using tactics that would make every modern day American man, woman, and child proud. Tactics like running and gunning, and carpet bombing, with emphasis on the carpet. I guess it's time to start taking this magic thing seriously. A sapphire staff is a good start, but I want to work my way up to a diamond robe and a ruby staff. So, we're back in the mine. We got our pickaxe swinging from side to side. On our adventures, we find the goblin tinkerer tied up in a cave, and we also find a dead man's sweater. That's a rude way of saying my character's old. The next couple of hours of playtime are just me going on a scavenger hunt for rubies and diamonds. We do find everything we need, and we craft our basic starting magic gear, and the game decides to give us a blood moon so that we can test all our new stuff out. Yeah, this stuff is pretty good. And while we're at it, we can also make a magnoluminescence, which is an accessory that increases my vision and also helps my movement speed. That is actually one of the best accessories you can put on for this challenge, since it helps with two of my debuffs simultaneously. And it's not that hard to craft either, just some demonite and some topaz. Oh, and a pretty cool hat as well, so I don't always have to be so self-conscious of my bald spot. We're doing well at this point in time, but we still need a nurse before I feel really good about taking on the Eye of Cthulhu. So, I took on a quick building project and made a normal house for two. Not only could the nurse move in, but we also moved the goblin tinkerer out of the mine and into our town. Also, I didn't know this, but apparently, you can sit on the NPC's laps. Alright, we're almost there to the first boss fight. The last thing we're gonna need is a pair of wings, which we could find in the sky. So, drink the gravitation potion and go, right? Well, do you remember how much of a pain it was to go up and down rope? It turns out that to flip gravity, you need to press A, which doesn't make sense at all, until you realize that it's not supposed to make sense, and then everything makes sense. But it's still a huge pain in the ass to try to do anything productive in the sky, especially if the harpies deal a fifth of my health every single hit. And if these common enemies are dealing this much damage, what's gonna happen when I get to the Eye of Cthulhu? That was significantly easier than the harpies. And since we got some leftover potion effects, you already know that I gotta go for it. I can beat him. Nah, for sure, I got him. This is too easy. Turns out that the Eater of Worlds is actually kinda hard without good prep. Making an arena above ground always seems to be a good solution though, since, for some reason, its AI doesn't like to go above a certain elevation. Alright, now we got him. Now we're gonna win, right? We're gonna win, right? The real problem is the fact that he's constantly hawking loogies at me. Bitch, I am not your personal spittoon. Bro wants to be a Westa Loathing character so bad. Oh, what I'm about to do to this worm, I swear to God. Trash. Garbage. Absolute filth. Can't believe I died twice to you. And then, I gotta come home and talk to this hornball. Like, oh my god. Good shit, I guess. Like, oh man. That's it. I'm going to the jungle. I need to take my mind off everything. Give me that shit. My hat now. Over here, we're actually gonna source the resources to craft 2 different armor sets. The first set is the jungle set, which we can easily craft after a bit of exploring and by slaughtering the biome's denizens. This set is the best mage armor we can get in this part of the game, so it's going to be important moving forward. And it wasn't particularly difficult to get either. But we're also going to need a good summoner set, aka we're going to need to forge the obsidian outlaw set. We already have the shadow scales for it and the silk for it as well, and we can get the obsidian by diving deep into the jungle. The last thing we need is a hellforge, so we need to go even deeper and travel to the underworld to find this thing. And while we're here, we might as well start making our hell bridge and try to farm some guide voodoo dolls for the wall of flesh. A little bit of foresight doesn't hurt anybody. I also mined some hellstone so that I can make the switch from flinxes to demonic imps, which were a very significant upgrade. In fact, they were so much of an upgrade that in the middle of this recording session, I went to take a shit, and when I came back, my imps were halfway done with the slime rain event. Well, I mean, I wasn't really trying to do the king slime right now, so I'm just gonna ignore the slime rain and move on to Skeletron, an actual boss that deserves my potions. You better run them hands, Skeletron. Oh shit! Foresight? I don't think I've ever heard of that word. How stupid of me to try and beat a boss with summoner without a whip. Like, it's not even that hard to craft one either. We can get a snapthorn really quickly after one trip through the jungle. I'm back, motherfucker. Wow, turns out I'm not very good at this game. But, just like real life, the solutions to all of your problems in Terraria are money and bad bitches. Trash. Garbage. Absolute filth. Can't believe I died twice to you. Next up, the dungeon. Most of the loot here is not going to be important to us, but there are 3 things that we're going to want. The bewitching table will buff us and allow us to spawn an extra minion, which gives us easy DPS. The spinal tap is another whip that we can craft using some bones and some cobwebs. And the shadow key can... yeah, that's really good. The stuff in shadow chests are infinitely better than anything we can find in the dungeon. Stuff like a fire flower, for example, which thematically goes well with our obsidian armor, and is just a great magic weapon. It's good for just about any enemy, and will pair well with our imps. Okay, this is going really good now. All we need to do is make an arena, and we're just about ready to take on Queen Bee. Only in my playthrough do my minions shoot the Queen's Bee larva at the exact angle you need to preemptively spawn the boss and ruin my life. This shit only happens to me. Well, I'm too stubborn to go make an arena elsewhere, so we're gonna be making an abomination. This is gonna be kinda inconvenient, but at least the recipe isn't that bad. It could be worse. Now, I'm gonna admit something here. I had to step in honey at one point. I know, I said I wouldn't be using campfires and heart lanterns and shit like that, but, you know, it's kinda hard not to step in it. I needed honey blocks to make the abomination, so yeah, I did step in honey at one point, but it's not gonna be something I'm constantly using. If I step in honey, it is what it is. If I fall for the honey trap, it is what it is, you know? Plantera trying to slide in your DMs, turns out she's working with the NSA. What are you really gonna do about that? What can you do about that? Anyway. The Wall of Flesh, aka the final boss of pre-hard mode, whose purpose is to stop us pre-hard moders from illegally crossing the border to hard mode. Now, at this point, you may throw your hands up in the air and say, Wovi, we're fucked. How are we ever going to get past the behemoth that is Terrarian homeland security? Well, there are a couple angles that we can approach this conundrum from. First of all, the zoologist can sell a couple of mounts that are pretty useful to us versus the final boss. If you collect enough bestiary entries, she sells a horse that travels at almost the same speed as the Wall of Flesh. And we're gonna need speed if we're gonna outrun the border patrol, the hungry. But of course housing new NPCs means building new houses, so I had to embark on another quick building project.
Who is it? What? I should kick your fucking ass!
In terms of accessories, we basically have everything we need already. All of our equipped accessories are helping our movement speed, because the most important thing during this boss fight is to keep our distance. As long as we're far enough away from the Wall of Flesh, it can't hurt us. We're also going to need to be doing consistent damage, which means our mana is going to have to be pretty full for most of the fight. But instead of spamming mana potions, I decided to use one of my favorite strats, killing a bunch of enemies on my hell bridge so that they drop mana stars, which I can pick up mid-fight for instant mana. It doesn't take that long to do, and it's better than dealing with mana sickness. And finally, one thing that's going to be different between this boss and our previous encounters is that we're not going to have unlimited access to the nurse throughout the fight. We're going to get one full heal on top of our health pots, and that's it. So I decided to place the nurse in the back half of the bridge, since I'm somewhat confident I can make it there in one piece. Okay, I get that I fucked up and I ran into the underside of my hell bridge, but did you have to go and shoot my body after that? Was that really necessary? Is this an insinuation or something? Do you want to 1v1 on Rust? I can turn off this game right now if you want me to. Listen, I'm not trying to stop you from doing anything. All I'm saying is, do it again. I dare you to do it again. And that's how I beat pre-hard mode with 12 defense and no health regen. Admittedly, the challenge became significantly easier after I got some good movement accessories, but no health regen and our trash defensive ratings were still pretty challenging to work around. And hard mode is going to be even worse than this, so I hope you're ready for when that video comes out. But thank you for watching this through to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.